February 1989, a man with the name Alec Newald was abducted by aliens and taken for 10 days to their home world.
In 1989, Alec Newald's car chugged up a foggy mountain pass on his way to Auckland. Then, nothing. He blinked, and suddenly 10 days had passed. His family had filed a missing persons report. A search was underway. But for Alec, it was as if no time had passed at all.
Someone has come across the one piece of evidence that I've always said we need in order to prove the ancient astronaut theory.
The problem was, he returned with fragmented memories of a sprawling alien metropolis and a terrifying warning for humanity. He claims he was abducted and has physical and documented proof of his time away. But not all things are what they seem, and the government's reaction to his story is even stranger than the abduction itself. A 3-hour drive to nowhere. In the quiet pre-internet world of 1989, a man named Alec Newald started his car for what should have been a completely unremarkable journey. He was driving from his home in Rotorua, New Zealand to Auckland, a trip of about 170 miles that should have taken him roughly 3 hours. He had no luggage, no grand plans, just a simple drive on a familiar road. But Alec never arrived. You see, somewhere along that foggy, winding road, something impossible happened. One moment he was driving, feeling a growing wave of exhaustion and sickness wash over him. And the next, nothing. An absolute void. When he finally came to his senses, he was back on the road, still in his car, feeling as though only moments had passed. But the world around him had jumped forward in time. 10 full days were gone. His family, frantic with worry, had contacted the authorities. A police search had been launched, and he was officially a missing person. When Alec finally made contact, bewildered by the panic in their voices, he couldn't comprehend what they were telling him. For him, the journey had been continuous. He'd blinked, and suddenly everyone was acting like he'd returned from the dead. The thing is, the time loss was just the beginning of his nightmare. He was plagued by debilitating headaches, a bone-deep exhaustion that never seemed to fade, and a strange inability to focus his thoughts. His body felt alien to him, as if it had been put through an ordeal his mind refused to remember. Life became a confusing haze, punctuated by the worried faces of his loved ones and the unsettling feeling that a piece of his reality was fundamentally broken. Then, the flashes started. At first, they were just disjointed images, confusing and fleeting. Sensations of impossible lightness, the feeling of an otherworldly presence, and glimpses of structures that defied all known laws of architecture. Many people are crazy about uncovering the truth, and for Alec, that truth was slowly, painfully bubbling up from his subconscious. Over time, these fragments began to connect, weaving themselves into a coherent and terrifying narrative. The first clear memory to surface was the most profound. The sensation of losing his physical body entirely. He recalled a feeling of his corporeal form being stripped away, leaving only his pure consciousness, his very essence, floating in a vast, boundless space. He was fully aware, yet completely detached from the physical world he had always known. There was no pain, only a sense of infinite possibility and a quiet, ambient glow that illuminated the immense void around him. He had no eyes, but he could see. He had no ears, but he could perceive. It was a state of being that was both terrifying and strangely liberating. And he wasn't alone. Vague shapes began to coalesce out of the emptiness, slowly taking on distinct forms. They were tall and incredibly thin, about the height of an average human, but with a grace and fluidity of movement that was utterly non-human. Their heads were larger in proportion to their bodies, with smooth, broad faces, narrow jaws, and deeply set eyes that seemed to hold an ancient wisdom. They moved with a slow, deliberate elegance, and as they drew closer, a voice echoed directly inside his mind. It wasn't spoken, it was a pure thought, calm and clear, welcoming him. The being identified itself as his designated guardian and assured him that his stay would be pleasant. The shock was immense. This wasn't a dream, this was real. And the communication was instantaneous, bypassing language and flowing directly from mind to mind. He understood them perfectly, and they, in turn, understood him. This telepathic link was made even clearer when a bright, glowing garment simply materialized on him, a special suit designed to enhance their mental connection. They radiated a feeling of genuine curiosity and goodwill, telling Alec he was free to leave at any time, but expressing a sincere hope that he would choose to stay and learn from them. The choice was his. What they showed him next would shatter his understanding of reality forever. Lessons from the stars. Once Alec processed the initial shock and accepted that he was no longer on Earth, the boundless void around him transformed. The darkness gave way to a structured, tangible reality. A city of such breathtaking scale and beauty that it made every human metropolis seem like a quaint village in comparison. It stretched endlessly along the coastline of an alien world, a testament to a civilization billions of years ahead of our own. The thing is, the architecture was unlike anything a human mind could conceive. There were no harsh angles or brutalist concrete. Instead, low, circular buildings with smooth, glowing surfaces dotted the landscape. These were interspersed with colossal, pyramid-like structures that shimmered as if made from translucent crystal. From the peak of each pyramid, a spiral tower twisted towards the sky like a giant antenna, each one topped with an enormous, softly glowing orb that pulsed with a strange, powerful energy. These weren't just for decoration. Alec felt an overwhelming sense of purpose emanating from them, as if they were the city's power source or communication hubs. The entire city hummed with a quiet harmony. Gently curving streets flowed seamlessly into the architecture, and there was an impossible sense of cleanliness. There was no trash, no decay, not a single wisp of smoke or pollution. It was a world where technology and the environment weren't at odds, but were perfectly harmonized. You see, the most mind-bending detail was the texture of the buildings themselves. They didn't feel like they were constructed from separate materials. They felt organic. Alec had the unshakable impression that these structures were grown, not built, from some unknown material that was both living and technologically advanced. He was led to his own personal quarters, a room with soft curves instead of corners, where the light itself seemed to respond to his presence, and the space subtly altered itself to meet his needs before he even knew what they were. It was here that he began to understand his visit wasn't some random cosmic accident. It was a deliberate, planned encounter. He was here to learn. His primary guide was a being who introduced herself telepathically as Xena. She carried an air of ancient authority and gentle patience. Xena began to unveil a hidden history of Earth that was more fantastic than any science fiction novel. She explained that humanity was not a cosmic fluke. We are a designed species, purposefully created and guided by beings like her own people, in cooperation with other advanced cosmic races. The sudden appearance of Cro-Magnon and Homo sapiens in Earth's history, a puzzle that still baffles paleontologists, was no accident. Xena revealed that Cro-Magnon was an early prototype, a physical vessel designed to house a spiritual essence. Homo sapiens was the refined version, engineered with the incredible ability to remember and access knowledge across generations, encoded directly into our DNA. Humanity was designed for greatness, for enlightenment, for a level of consciousness we can now only dream of. But then, Xena's tone shifted, conveying a sense of profound sadness. She spoke of a tragedy in Earth's distant past. A darker, malevolent force intervened in the grand experiment. This force, she explained, feared humanity's potential. They saw what we could become and sought to cripple us before we could ever reach our full power. They manipulated our genetics, altering and suppressing key strands of our DNA, effectively sealing away our most potent spiritual abilities and our connection to a higher consciousness. Humans became fragmented, a shadow of what they were meant to be, trapped in a cycle of conflict and forgetfulness. The things nobody tells you about our own history are the most important. Xena explained that this ancient knowledge wasn't completely lost. It was preserved in secret by hidden sects and mystery schools across the planet. The Great Pyramids, the Standing Stones, and other ancient monuments were not just tombs or temples. They were memory remindings, encoded messages left for a future generation that was ready to awaken. But the dark force that crippled us is still here, actively working to keep us asleep. The price of truth. After 10 days of absorbing these universe-altering revelations, Alec Newald returned. For him, the transition was as seamless and disorienting as his departure. He was back in his car, the 10-day gap in his life an unexplainable void that would soon be filled with incredible, dangerous memories. But his return was not the end of his ordeal. It was the beginning of a new, far more terrestrial battle. As the memories of the alien city, of Xena, and of humanity's hidden history solidified, Alec began to tentatively share his experience. He wasn't seeking fame or fortune. He was a man grappling with a truth so profound he felt compelled to speak it. And that's when the strange things started happening. It began subtly, an unnerving pattern of surveillance. Men in plain suits parked across the street from his home. His phone calls would have strange clicks and echoes, and important letters would go missing from his mail. Then the harassment escalated. He was approached by strangers in public who would ask probing, oddly specific questions about his lost time, trying to trip him up. But the masterstroke of their campaign was far more insidious. A man calling himself Jeff Wright entered Alec's life, presenting a lucrative business opportunity involving the importation of Japanese vehicles. Alec, whose life was already in turmoil, saw it as a chance to get back on his feet. The thing is, it was a meticulously crafted trap. The cars he was given to sell were reported as stolen, and Alec was promptly arrested, facing serious criminal charges. The legal process was a nightmare, designed to break him. It dragged on for over 2 years, involving more than 20 court appearances and draining him of all his financial resources. He quickly realized that Jeff Wright was no businessman. He was a plant, an agent sent to ensnare him. The purpose of this elaborate setup became chillingly clear when intelligence operatives made him an offer. They told him they could make all the charges, the court dates, the legal fees, the threat of prison, disappear. All he had to do was cooperate. He had to sit down with them and tell them everything. Every detail about the beings he met, their technology, their philosophy, and especially the hidden history of humanity they had shared with him. For Alec, this was the ultimate confirmation. His story wasn't just a delusion that they were trying to help him with. It contained information they considered valuable, information that was worth suppressing at any cost. In a moment of incredible defiance, Alec refused. He chose to endure the financial ruin, the public humiliation, and even a prison sentence, rather than hand over the knowledge he had been given. He would not allow their truth to be twisted into a weapon or buried in a classified file. Facing a system intent on crushing him, Alec realized he had only one weapon left: the truth itself. To protect himself and to ensure the story would survive, he wrote a book, Co-Evolution, an interplanetary adventure. This book became his proof. Inside its pages, he laid out his entire 10-day experience in meticulous detail. He provided vivid, structured accounts of the alien city, the telepathic communication, and the profound philosophical discussions he had with his hosts. More than just words, he included sketches, detailed illustrations of the circular dwellings, the crystal pyramids with their spiraling antennas, and the massive glowing orbs that powered the city. He also transcribed his dialogues with Xena, sharing the shocking revelations about humanity's designed origins and the genetic manipulation that holds us back. The book was a bombshell. You have to wonder, could things like this happen overnight? Does someone just wake up with a fully formed, incredibly detailed account of an alien world and a hidden human history? Or are we missing a crucial piece of the puzzle? The thing is, Alec's story isn't just about aliens. It's about a struggle for control over humanity's destiny. If he's telling the truth, it means there are powerful forces, both on Earth and beyond, that have a vested interest in keeping us ignorant and divided. The harassment he endured suggests that earthly intelligence agencies are, at the very least, aware of these off-world dynamics and are actively participating in the cover-up. Alec Newald's story forces us to ask a controversial question. Is human ignorance a choice, or is it a carefully maintained prison? What do you think? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more hidden truths.